You are live. You are live. You are live. Sorry. Got to do the audio test.
I got you. All right, so welcome everybody, members of the public, to our August Board of Education meeting. We'll start with a few administrative items and then move into our goal setting activity. So the New Jersey Open Public Meetings Law was enacted to ensure the right of the public to have advance notice of and to attend meetings of local bodies at which time any business affecting their interests is discussed. In accordance with the provisions of this Act, Board of Education Policy 0162, the Board of Education of the Borough of Bound Brook has caused notice of this meeting to be posted in the board office in the Bound Brook High School and mailed a fax to the Courier News, Bound Brook Borough Clerk, South Bound Brook Board of Education, and any person who has requested individual notice and paid the required fee. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Mr. Gorski, roll call please.
Certainly. Mr. Bell. Mr. Dawson. Here. Ms. Gazino. Ms. Carlton. Mr. Zupko. Ms. Moosen.
Here.
Mr. Minhas.
Present.
Ms. Hyde.
Here.
Mr. Fulmer.
Here.
And Mr. Januzzi.
Here.
Mr. Board President, you have a quorum present this evening.
Thanks very much. At this point, I am Ms. Patty Rees, did I say correctly? Very nice. Who is our new NJSBA Field Services rep, who is going to work with us on setting district and board goals this evening. Patty, the floor is yours.
Want me to stand as a mic?
That's your choice.
Wherever you're comfortable.
I'm sorry?
Wherever you're comfortable.
Well, anyway, as which Patty Reese, I am field service rep with New Jersey School Boards. I've been with the association for 9 years. I've been a field service rep for 2 years. The first 9 years, I was the county activities coordinator for the northern counties. Before I worked for New Jersey School Boards, I was on my Board of Education in Somerset County for 12 years. I did then 1 term on my town council. Then I got the job at school boards, and you can't have an elected position. I really enjoy what I'm doing at school boards. I will say also that Gwen, your former field service rep, is not gone. She is now the senior director for content at NJSBA. She now oversees field services in a couple other departments. So she's still around. She's based more in Trenton now, but she'll still be around and with all her relationships, answer questions or whatever. And if you go down to workshop, you will see Gwen, because she will be there. We'll all be there. So we're asked to come in tonight for goal setting. And I was excited when Gwen told me that your board is on the path to become a Carol Larson Master Board certified, which is fabulous. That's the second level and the highest level of board certification. And there are very few boards throughout the state that achieve that, because it's a continuation of the certified board. And it's a lot of hard work. So I commend you for your goal and your hard work. And I think you're only a couple hours away from getting that. So that's exciting. And I think you should really be proud of the hard work that you've been doing toward that. And so with that, I made some that you've been down goal setting before. So I've not put in the slides that talk about the very basic levels, because I'm thinking as an almost master board that you know what that is. But we'll just start with this, goal setting for 2024, 25. It's hard to imagine, hard to believe that we're already in 2024, almost 2025, and how long ago 2000 now seems. But one of the most important roles that a Board of Ed can do is to set comprehensive goals for your students and your district. It helps drive your student achievement. And as we go through this, consider what have you accomplished this year? What do you think may need additional focus? Or do your priorities reflect your core values? Now, I also understand that you just almost completed a strategic plan for 2024 to 2027. No, 4 years, 5 years. So some of what we look at and we recommend as district goals, we recommend that everything flows from your mission statement, which I have slides of, to your vision statement, and that your strategic planning goals, your district goals, and your board goals are all aligned, which makes it like setting the ship on a specific course. We have two different kinds of goals. The district goals are owned by everyone in the district, and they are set generally by the superintendent, the recommendation of the superintendent with discussion of the board. The board goals are really all about the board and tasks and processes that are owned by the board, but they should also support the district goals and then support the strategic planning goals as you go through that. And I know that you do this because you're a board, certified board and almost a master student, but goal setting is a continuous cycle throughout the year, where about this time of year, you're setting your goals and you analyze them throughout the year, and then you and review them and see if there's anything that needs to be changed, added, tweaked, whatever. But it happens throughout the year. We know that effective school boards define clear goals for student achievement that are based on your vision of high expectations and shared beliefs that all students can achieve. So as we're going through this, you consider what your focus should be. What to most dramatically accelerate your student learning, and what data have you reviewed that identifies some areas of improvement. And then align your financial resources toward those goals to support the achievement of those goals. So as we continue, we're going to consider the vision for your district, part of this discussion, your district mission statement, your strategic plan, and then any data that may support that or support any part of your goals. And we'll look at your previous goals. So your mission statement is really well crafted and to the point. The Bound Brook Public Schools is a supportive multicultural community that provides an innovative and academically challenging educational program while offering a variety of extracurricular and social opportunities that encourage lifelong learning and citizenship. And in one sentence, that pretty much says a lot. And I think it really does. Is the guiding force by where your goals should be. And as I said, I did look at what I had for your strategic plan. And then your vision statement, which is even more encompassing. And so some of these you can look to see as you're getting into board goals, what you might have as a goal to support all of this. So, and this talks about this is your district goals for last year. Gwen sent me this copy, to continue to create a safe environment where students and staff feel comfortable taking risks and working collaboratively toward a common goal. And then the second one is to fully utilize data through professional development to inform instruction and strengthen student achievement. And we put these up because you might want to consider, is there anything that you want to continue? Do you want to tweak it? If there's more work that needs to be done, or do you think that we've done this, we can move forward in another direction? And I think for the district goals, you had some suggestions.
For this, we have to continue.
So these are the upcoming year? I thought these were the last year.
They were, but we start off at a very basic level.
Okay,
So this is something that'll take us another year or two to get fully in place.
okay, so your thought is to continue these for 2024, 2025? Okay,
Yeah, and not to put you on the spot, but I think we talked about that at governance.
Yeah, at governance committee too, we also talked about the strategic plan
Mhm.
and how to move forward with that to make sure that communication is there between the board and the whole community. We want it to really be a living document, something that we are constantly looking back to just get more people involved with the process.
So does that mean we tweak it a little bit to modify it for year two?
I think what we need to do is review it, and I think from there, we need to set timelines as to when
Yes.
we're going to be looking.
yeah, the next step is to further drill down on these with an action plan that includes who's going to be responsible for that portion of it, and the timeline to achieve it, and what does achieving it look like specifically. And that is really, and that is something that boards do, right? That we have, like in your strategic plan, although I know you haven't gotten to your action plans are still being developed, but the action plan is kind of like the roadmap that you use to get through to achievement, and then as well as identify what does achievement look like. So is achievement looking like more collaborative working, more people working collaboratively together, or where more opportunities for students and staff?
And if I can maybe
Yeah,
just
go ahead.
add, and I'll tap into Sid hopefully. No. Yeah. I know on the education committee side, we've seen more than a few presentations about how the new assessments that are being done are aligning with how we're changing the curriculum or aligning with how we're changing the PD. So to Dr. Freeman's point, using data is something that we said from the moment we were selecting. It has been a common theme over the last 2 years. Exactly where we are in the journey and how we're using it, I think, is evolving over time. But the idea that we need to get to full utilization is something we still need to achieve.
Well, and having the data to back it up is really helpful for board decisions. You can, if you're spending money or resources, you need to know that what you're doing is effective, and it's achieving, working toward the goals that you want to achieve. And so, as I said, I thought this, when Gwen sent it, this was for this current year, but you're going to
Yes.
continue that.
And do what you said, give some specifics in terms of timelines, who's responsible and when it will be presented to the
Yeah.
board.
Yeah, and the action plan for district goals are very similar to the action plan set up for
Right.
strategic plan. And I have a template if you need that, but I'm thinking Gwen probably may have sent it. But they're just traditional action plans for what you're doing. All right, that was easy. I thought we were gonna have a discussion. But you've already had it, and these are good goals, and now you'll work to get the action plans, and you'll have what to look forward to.
And just for the sake of achieving consensus, because I know it was discussed in governance, but not everybody who's here is on the governance committee. You guys specifically, does this make sense? Are you supportive? Would you like to see changes made? Have any feedback or suggestions?
So we could have, do you want to have a discussion now or?
Yeah, if we could.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
We've got
I
4 minutes.
mean, yeah, I will say from my point, I wasn't actually at governance, even though I'm a part of the committee, but I support this approach in general.
Well, I mean, and we recommend that they get voted on by the board. So
Yes.
if you have any things you want added or any comments, now's the time.
The only thing I would ask, I agree, keep what we have, but because this is, as we mentioned, we've been using the word evolve, and we're evolving, we're to fully utilization. So in that respects, I see this sentence, the wording to be evolved to reflect our evolving and getting closer to our goal, as opposed to just reusing what we already using last year, even though we agree that we're getting someplace, that we're looking to get there within a year or two, but I would like to see some evolution of this, of what we have written down, to reflect the gains that we have also made.
Okay. I don't disagree. Do you have any suggestions on how we might do
I'm
that?
trying to see how to rephrase that.
That's always the tricky part.
That is.
That is always a tricky part, I agree. Wordsmithing.
Well, I think it includes basically reviewing what has happened, where you are,
And where we want to be.
and where you want to be. It's just as I don't want to use the word accountability, but recognizing here's the benchmarks. We've gotten 50%, 60%, 80%. We're working towards 100%.
Right, but that would show
Put that
up
into a sentence.
when Freeman does the action plans. That kind of information will be in the action plan, like and these, now you realize these are now taking more than 1 year to achieve. So, and it may take 2 or 3 to achieve, but the action plans will really drill down into what is encompassed in that and what it looks like when it's achieved.
And you,
So,
And what?
I'm just looking at, you want something that is easily read and easily understood for, people who are looking at the district goals. But the meat of this is going to be with the strategic plan and the timeline, et cetera. And then that, I imagine, for me, it looks like that will come into all committee meetings as to here's where we are, here's where we were, so that everybody is updated on exactly where we stand. But I don't think we want it all in there because it gets like word soup.
Well, I mean, the goal should be broad and the action plan is more specific.
So like one of the things that I was thinking of, and I'm just gonna go with the second bullet because that's probably easier to do, since we're talking about data, is we've already started and made that approach to utilizing that data through professional development. But now instead of reforming the instruction, we want to strengthen the instruction. We want to empower the instruction, and not only do we want to strengthen the instruction, as we've seen through that student achievement has gone up. I'm struggling with another term for strengthen, but something to empower that student achievement. I mean, empower is probably the wrong word, but something on that level to build on what we've already built on.
Because as it's written there, how I take it is the data is used to inform instruction. So that's the staff part of it, the curriculum development part of it. And the end result is you want to strengthen.
Right, but we've made an effort this past year to really push a lot of professional development to improve the instruction, to enable different methods, to empower the staff and the administration and teachers to be able to try to take different risks.
Mhm.
And we've been doing that. I think it's been working very well, and it's actually been showing the results that we've seen. And I want to continue that, but I don't want to just continue like we're pressing, that we're just going in cruise control.
So I will note your comments, but I will maybe share a different perspective, which is, everybody throughout the community is, to Sue's point, going to read these goals.
Mhm.
And I think part of the reason why the right now resonates is because it doesn't matter which part of our community looks at that goal and reads it. They should be able to self-identify
Mhm.
what they are doing in terms of achieving that goal. So whether I'm a teacher, I'm a paraprofessional, I'm somebody on the child study team, I'm part of the administration, I'm a part-time volunteer coach, everybody should be able to identify with that goal. And not only that, but identify what they're doing to help the district move forward.
But it also should be understandable to your public, what it is. Like, we recommend that once the board approves the district goals, any of the goals, that it be put on your website, as well as the action plans. And that, that's where our next steps are. And then to maybe periodically throughout the year, quarterly or whatever works for the district, report out on progress towards those goals, keeping in mind that the superintendent's evaluation is also based on progress towards the district goals. So it's helpful to report out to the community, but also for the board to have periodic updates so that you know that things are getting done.
And I think back to the point you guys are making, which is we have not done a great job historically in the periodic reporting. And I know when we went through the strategic plan, part of the reason we all participated so heavily was because the last strategic plan fell so flat in terms of where it actually fell in our priority of how we're making decisions. And we didn't want that to happen with this one. So I think the schedule that we have been talking about, and I don't know if we did this only in governance or we've shared it with the whole board, but to have Dr. Freeman come back and do a state of the district report at a board meeting, either 2 or 3 times a year moving forward, and have that aligned not only with the goals and where we are in achieving them, but with the strategic plan to make sure.
I mean-
Share a couple ideas.
Of course.
I think there's a duality between the goals we have down on paper and then what that work looks like at the school level, at the district level, the culture that supports or hinders those goals. So what I'm thinking is, I'm wondering, how do we as a board support people who are making positive contributions to the culture of the district, to the work that's going on? Like, could we kind of marry the two ideas of, for lack of a better word, evaluation, and have a goal that says something like, as a board, we want to celebrate contributions from staff, students, families that support, the attainment of strategic goals or board goals, district goals. So instead of it looking like we're trying to be evaluative or have an accountability lens, let's try to marry that and do some positive communication and celebrate, when we are meeting those goals or people are doing something above and beyond to help us get there. Like, how can we create the culture and celebrate that in a public way that's going to allow the district to achieve what we need them to do instructionally, data-wise? How would you feel about that?
That's really something that we basically discussed in governance, is to really get the word out as to what is happening in the district. And I love that, Sid, too, to really recognize those who are really bringing and putting forth so much effort. Because that's what this is, that's what this is.
Yeah.
So, and I mean, what I'm hearing is everybody's kind of on the same page with this. It's the communication of it. How do we communicate this? And that's, I think, what we were talking about in governance. Everybody here is in, and everybody here is like, this is where we need to go. And the thing that we do not want to fall flat is communication with parents, with kids, with staff, with the community. Those things, we want to keep that really going.
Well, that's where a strategic plan is helpful, and the way that you did it in bringing in the public. And so, again, periodic updates towards the progress towards the strategic plan and everything else. But communication, that could be a subset of this, but that could also be if you're looking for a board goal. Because the goal, the core goal that Gwen sent me is about completing the strategic plan, which you've kind of done.
Every month, we recognize a student of the month. And we publicly recognize K through 12 as the outstanding student for that particular year. There's no reason why we should not, and your weekly letter that comes out every weekend, you highlight some positive occasions. Do that in a public meeting. Not only recognize the student of the month, but here's a teacher that did X over and above and beyond to help us accomplish that particular goal.
So that, where I was thinking as Sid was talking, we have not only the student of the month, but educators of the month.
Yes.
And the criteria for selecting the educators of the month has evolved over time, back to evolution. But is there a way that we could work highlighting specific contributions to these goals into that recognition program and kind of make it a virtuous circle?
I wouldn't say it has to be every single month, but I mean,
But I mean, weight that heavily, and if people are doing it, then it's gonna get priority to the recognition.
What about and Dr. Freeman can chime in on this, but having periodically a presentation by a staff member about a successful part of their program at a public board meeting. Doesn't have to be long, 5 minutes. And that's a recognition not only to your staff that you're acknowledging what they've done, but also a recognition to your community that, yes, our staff is working hard and they're working towards our goals and they're doing great for our kids and our community. I mean, there is that.
Work something like that. I like it.
So I guess back to the fundamental question, do we want to amend bullet 2? Do we want to add bullet 3? Or do we want to contemplate working these concepts into the board goal for this year?
Bullet 3 for me. I think we need to keep those. And then we'll add the bullet 3, which is,
You're good with the 2 goals, you said, or do you think there should be?
I think that there should be the additional goal, which deals with the strategic plan and the recognition of it. But that's the easy thing.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
So I agree that there should be a.
All right, so then, if this is their goal, what is it?
It's what's it.
Put it.
I was gonna say, what's your
I tried to
suggestion?
have what Sid said. Let me see. Developing between goals on paper, what it looks like for culture, how do we support those making positive additions to the district? Have a goal that celebrates contributions from staff, students, etc.
Do we want to make it specific and say celebrates contributions, positive contributions to the district and make it broader? Do we want to make it something more specific saying celebrating, completion of milestones of the strategic plan?
Something we do wherever.
I think there's value in keeping it broad. I mean, success could be, improving your school attendance. Could be,
Mhm.
But I think people need that affirmation on different levels, right? Because we've been trying to move the culture of the district in a positive way. So that might look different to different people, depending on what they're.
So can we build on that, celebrate positive contributions to the district? Or could it be as simple as celebrate positive contributions to the district? From all stakeholders, from all.
So I would be personally inclined to go with something that directly contributes to either a goals or a strategic plan. But to Sid's point, I do think it needs to be sufficiently broad because
Yeah.
if you talk about attendance, I mean, one of the things that we spoke at length about was the students' attitudes around standardized testing and their attendance on test days. And while it's not evaluative data in terms of like an assessment on a specific skill, there was data that was brought to the table in order to make informed decisions about how to change the school schedule on those days and what services were available to the kids in the run-up. So, I just want to be mindful that we cast the net wide enough to recognize all of those things that are making contributions, but not have it be so esoteric.
Well, I mean, that's the purpose of a goal, is to be broad, and then the action plans bring the specificity to that. And so that, to me, this is almost part of the action plan.
If I'm saying anything, I'm saying I really
Not
like
necessarily.
exactly the way that you leave it out the first time. What was the first time?
Let me go back to
Why
that.
didn't somebody record?
I listen, I almost tried, because I knew where it was going.
Okay, I didn't get it word for word, but I'm going to read the notes that I took. Duality between goals on paper and what it looks like for the culture. How do we support those making positive additions to the district?
Right.
Have a goal that celebrates contributions from staff, students, and ... is what I put, but it's all stakeholders.
Right, so I would start from that last sentence, finish with all stakeholders, and say, in achieving board, district, and strategic goals.
She's so fast typist.
Yeah.
That's why I don't type it.
Yeah.
Say that again, Rich. Celebrate with,
So I would take the last sentence,
okay, which was celebrate contributions from staff, students. Do we want to say from all,
and all stakeholders.
and all stakeholders, everyone staff, okay, celebrate. Staff, students, and all stakeholders. Okay, let's see. The achievement of
District, board, and strategic goals.
district. Remember last time we did this and it took us forever to get like one word?
Yeah, and then one eventually just told us what the word was.
Okay, so here's what I have.
That was my fault.
It's up to you.
Either way, here.
Doesn't matter.
Okay.
Just so
Yeah, got it. I think this really covers what we have been speaking about in our committee meetings. And I think this brings it to a whole other level, just letting people know.
Do you think that, Dr. Freeman, do you think that gives us enough, or your team enough sort of flexibility to be able to pinpoint, these recognized, and how that might look?
Yeah, I think it gives us, as you're saying it, I'm envisioning it in my head, but yeah, that gives us no flexibility. And if it doesn't, I'll come back to you and tell you.
And don't forget about the action plan too, that'll allow that.
I really appreciate the twist from it being an evaluative type of thing to it being a way that we can quantify and evaluate things, right? It becomes a tool that we can use as a board to see how we track our own.
Well, I mean, it's sort of unstated, right? If there's a key aspect of the plan that is not getting recognized, you know. But it's, I don't know if we want to be in the business of publicly questioning why a particular stakeholder goal is not currently being where it needs.
We haven't had one in a while.
I know it's getting late towards our meeting, but goal number 3 sounds, it's more of a result of something that we're doing. Where these are goals, we're trying to create a safe environment, we're trying to use data. And this is like, we're celebrating. That's more of a result of what we should be doing as opposed to create a goal that says, hey, we're gonna celebrate.
Well, I think the action is celebrating, right? What we're celebrating could be achievement.
So maybe
Contribution.
how we word it is important. So maybe if it's identify, you know, where elements of the strategic plan have been completed or contributed to in a positive way and celebrate the stakeholders who are responsible, something along those lines.
that is almost a part of the action plan, or maybe part of the board goal as opposed to the district goal. But what was said is celebrate contributions from staff, students, and all stakeholders in the achievement of district BOE and strategic goals. Does that sound good to people?
I agree, that's where we landed, but I think Dom's feedback is he's not happy with the.
No, I'm happy with that.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna fight it and say, oh, that's a stupid idea. I vote no. I would say, how about we identify and celebrate? We're just gonna identify what's going on.
Yeah.
And then we can celebrate it.
Yeah, can we name
As
it?
opposed
you
to
know?
saying, all right, this already happened, so we're celebrating what happened. Let's go out and say, this is what we found. We identified this particular project, and now we're gonna celebrate it.
So just by adding that one word, identify, two words, identify and celebrate, that keeps the whole message still there.
Right.
But just saying, we're making an effort to really look at what's being going on.
So moved. We're good?
So,
Yeah, I'm good.
so what everybody agreed to is identify and celebrate contributions from staff, students, and all stakeholders in the achievement of district BOE and strategic goals. Okay, is that something that you can work with?
Of course.
All right,
I know we can.
I hate to mess it up, but if celebrate is the contentious point, you could go with acknowledge. Because acknowledge, it could be different terms, but it could be a celebration.
You know,
well, acknowledge first that
Yeah.
implies identification, and then the action plan could say celebrate.
Yeah.
But acknowledge it's up to you.
I was looking at it, that's more of a result of what we're trying to, what we found. We found something that worked, and now we can celebrate. So you have to identify what it is first before you can celebrate.
Mr. Gorski, Joanna made a good point. She said she doesn't know what our cake budget is for the coming school year, but we may have to look into that at operations. So good. All right, Patty, I think we're good.
You go with the district goals? So what are the next steps? Well, we did that. Adopting your annual district goals, coming up with an action plan. The superintendent will work on that, and then adopting them. And then, as I said, the periodic review and progress towards those goals, so that not only does the board know where you're going, but so does your community. And that helps project a positive image of the district moving forward.
So not to anticipate what comes next, but I imagine board goals is the next
Yeah.
in your presentation.
Yes,
Before
and
we get there, since we did the strategic plan last year, can I make a suggestion that we make operationalizing this schedule our primary board goal for this year? It's something that we haven't done in my 3 years here, or haven't done well, and something we've all said we would want to see done. So maybe we should make this the actual area of focus for the board.
so strategic plan goals, district goals, board goals should all be aligned, all heading in the same direction.
That makes a lot of sense to me.
Because the strategic, the board goals, well, we'll just go into this 3 to 5, 3 to 5 goals to focus on. We talk about coming from the board self-evaluation, which I see you haven't done. That's helps some boards identify things that they should work on. The board goals are just processes owned by the board and tasks that you do. These are just some things you might consider. And part of your discussion is what can you be do more effectively in communications, both internal and external? What can you do to enhance your governance skills and performance? I mean, your governance skills, you're almost at the Carol E. Larson Master Board certification, which, by the way, when I was first on my board, she was my first field service rep back in the day. She passed a number of years ago, but she was a tough taskmaster. I learned a lot from her.
Right.
And then Gwen at one point, because Gwen has handled Somerset County for many years, so she was mine at one point. So board goals, board challenges. And I just put up some examples because it's sometimes it's easier to come up with district-wide for curriculum and student achievement and all that, but sometimes it's a challenge to come up. These are examples, just like engage in professional development. Your master certification, I looked that up because I think you asked Gwen and I don't think she.
We're 30 minutes away.
Yeah, 30 minutes away, and the 4-year roll, the 2-year rolls over. Your eligibility ends on June 20th, 2025. So you have till next June, and since you have, I think, a half hour away, I think it was what it was, after today, they'll have it, yeah, you'll be at 9.5 after today. So you have, almost a full school year to get your other half hour in and get your certification. So if you're looking for a goal you can achieve,
Yeah, that's what I
easily,
think is on.
that would be one. Add that to it. But it's also advertising to your public and your community that you have taken the extra steps to not only be be certified as a board, but to earn master certification, which I said is maybe a handful of districts throughout the state. So, that is one that you can add if you want something you want to achievable.
So I really like the idea of including that one for us, not necessarily because it's achievable, but I would add and determine what we're going to do next. Because, the whole idea was to demonstrate our commitment to continuing education, the same way that we're asking the professional staff to do. So it's going to be nice to be able to say that we're master certified, but the question will be, what are we going to do next?
Well, when you become master certified, you need to maintain it. So you will have to do within every 2 years, 10 hours of training to maintain it. If you don't do that within 2 years, you will lose it. And then you'll have to go all the way back to the beginning for the board certification. So what you can do is to continue the training that you've been doing. Be that having somebody come into your board meetings, workshop counts, going to county meetings count, lots of things count, going to statewide programs like the law forum at times, they all count. So it's not like you get it and you can say, okay, good, it's done. No, you have to maintain it. And again, every 2 years. So there is that. This was the goal that Gwen had given me, but you really, you've had the strategic planning process. So this would probably, if you want to continue this, to tweak it to, I don't know, it's pretty specific. You're waiting for your action plans for the strategic plan. So I'm not sure, what do you think? How relevant this might be?
So I would favor, so we went with one goal just to be very specific
Yeah.
last year of what we were going to be working on. I like the idea of keeping it and adjusting it as you recommended, in part because we want the strategic plan to be an area of focus. Like we invest all that time and energy into creating it. So the idea that we would now, proceed with year one, right, to achieve what's set out in year one for the strategic plan. To me, would be an unwritten goal, and there's no reason why we couldn't.
So, I mean, something would be to support,
The achievement of year one milestones for the strategic plan.
I would just say support the look up some more specific wording, the goals of the strategic plan on an annual basis. Now, support not only means talking about it and at board meetings, it also is providing the resources necessary, whether that, especially during budget time, the resources necessary. So maybe provide the support and resources necessary towards the, I'm thinking achievement, but progress toward, something towards your district goals.
Attainment.
Hmm?
Attainment.
Attainment. That's the word.
Do you guys agree with putting something in our board?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, that makes sense.
Kind of think of what to say.
I don't want to put shoulders, but given that you're writing, should we take it as implied that you will read back to us some proposed goals? Okay. So I don't know that we have to worry about words and things much right now. But before we approve it, we want to make sure that everybody's happy with exactly the way it's working.
Right.
And we wouldn't be approving tonight, we'd be approving
No.
at the next meeting.
And I'll write this up in memo form. But what I've heard is to provide support and resources necessary for the attainment of the district and strategic planning goals. That works?
Yeah.
Do you want to add in the master board member?
Yeah, absolutely.
Right, and actually, it would be to engage in professional development to achieve and maintain master board certification. So that's two.
Also, since we know we're that close, make sure you pencil in, I think it's April, the NJSBA Somerset County meeting where they do the accomplishments and celebrations, because I imagine we'll be up on
Yes.
this.
And we could also come, so I can come to a board meeting. And so that you're, specifically, once you get there, if that happens, because they do it in the spring, but if you get it done before that.
Oh, we already have a place on the wall picked out for the flag.
There you go. But you should really celebrate. Your community should know, your staff should know. It really does have an impact on everyone because you're functioning and you're governing well. Or at least you're trying to, and you're getting the necessary professional development like teachers do to get that.
So is there room in the cake for that celebration?
Listen, I don't know. That's gonna have to be a big cake.
I thought we had an airplane with the banner flying around town.
Yeah, well, we'll see what the surplus is like.
I mean, is there anything else that you think on the board level that you might want to work towards?
Before we get into additional comments, Dr. Freeman, Mr. Gorski, since we were so prescriptive with the district goals, what do you guys think about board goals? What are things you would like to see us?
Exactly what you're saying.
All right.
I agree with that. The master board is also, that's,
I didn't mean to put you on the spot.
also, I think those are the two big ones for me. If I think of something else,
The strategic plan is kind of, is work.
Oh, yeah.
So that's why it's hard to come up with a known, because everything's gonna be derivative of that.
I know. And I think we've done a good job over the last few years picking goals that would materially change the way we operate as a board, but also not overwhelm us in terms of what we can effectively accomplish in a given year. So, reframing how we do our meetings the 1 year, and, adjusting our governance cycles to make sure that we're efficient with our time. Obviously, the strategic planning exercises, multiple exercises last year, both with the community and the committee were time consuming, but important. I think we did, as a result of the focus, we did a really good job. To your point, maybe we keep it to those two and make sure that we have a laser focus like that on what we're doing.
I mean, unless you wanna, you have the technology plan, which that's technically part of the strategic plan. We have communication, but we identified that earlier with the district goals. Just, I don't know, just thinking. Remember, like you said, it's a derivative of this.
One, if you're looking for a third goal, to conduct the board self-evaluation every year. It's done online. and, you know, that's an attainable one. It doesn't take too long. And it's, as I said, it's not required by law.
Right.
It's just a best practice. It helps you identify things that you might want to drill down on a board goal.
I mean, I like it, but we've already got one easy one up there with the master plan. So,
And we can still
that's
do
something that we need to be able to do anyway, our board, so we shouldn't have as a goal or something that's, required. But-
Well, I think master plan's not required.
Yeah, but what I meant to say is something that we should,
Is that
the board.
Board self-evaluation. Which I think we did in the spring of 2023. We didn't repeat for 2024.
Yeah, that's, you could do it now.
Yeah, well,
It's online. And the board, the superintendent and the business administrator, are non-voting members of the board, so they can also do it. And it really talks about there's 9 areas that you're evaluating the board on, and then your contribution to the board. So it can be very helpful. I've seen it work with boards that are high functioning, like I think you are. And it kind of acknowledges, you show that. But it may show things that, okay, I feel like I need more training in this area. And it's anonymous. So even the comments you make, so that unless you self-identify that, you said that, you wrote that, nobody knows. It's not, I can't even see the word, because it's just the way it enters into our system is that. But and then I've seen boards that were highly divided, and the self-evaluation came back, and one of the worst ones I've seen recently. And but what resonated with the board is that there were 2 philosophical sides, and neither side was happy with how things were functioning. So it really led to great discussion. Once they saw, I'm like, wow, like nobody likes how we're, what we're achieving or not achieving. And so that really did help foster that discussion. But it's up to you. If you're okay with 2 goals, that's I'm okay with 2 goals. It's the board's choice. The 2? All right, and then work on the action plans. Again, the next steps are the action plans, who does what, and what the success looks like. And then report out your progress towards your district goals periodically. At the same time, you can report out progress towards the strategic planning goals, progress towards the district goals, and then just, an update on progress towards board goals. No, we did this in an hour. You guys are focused. So just ending with a little quote. And with that, I think unless you have any questions, I will write up what we'll discuss and send it as a memo form. May not come till next week, only because I'm doing a search in my next couple of nights is interviews. But if there's not anything else, thank you for having me in tonight. I'm happy to come to Somerset County, because it's close, but my kids went to Somerville High School, so I know we compete there in athletics. We competed with Bound Brook, so I've been here before.
we'll try not to hold it against you. We'll try not to hold it against you. Yeah. No, it was really great to have you, and we're happy to be able to work with you. Thank you for being in this session. It's usually one of the most important meetings that we have for the entirety of the year. Thank you guys for the good discussion.
Yeah, no, it is. Goal setting is very important. It helps come up with a plan and how you're going to get to the end result and what it looks like. So again, thank you.
Nothing. That's it. One of my favorites. Control. And I can't worry about it. Not my job.
Okay.
All right, no problem.
Which way am I turning?
Anybody need paper? Paper?
I've got so many things.
We're happy you're here. At this point, we are up to committee meeting reports. First on the agenda is Education Committee. Mr. Dawson.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Education Committee met last week. We reviewed a number of items, including the school calendar, school counseling plan. We had a presentation about the access results, which is a test that our multilingual learners take to measure their progress in reading, writing, speaking, listening. We'll be going into further detail on that later today, so I don't want to spoil the movie, but it's a good movie. We're going in a good direction. And we are excited to learn about all the different ways the district is supporting our teachers and our students for the upcoming school year.
Thank you, Mr. Dawson. Any questions for Education Committee? All right, hearing none, we'll move on to governance. Ms. Hyde for Mr. Bethel.
Okay, we have for governance this month, one of the things that we reviewed right off was the HIP process of harassment, intimidation, bullying. And it's really kind of streamlined so that now there's going to be email and phone call to parents so that it's very clear as to what the process is. Also, the HIP specialists in each of the buildings will be in touch with INRS and the special ed department so that we know that the kids really are, we know where they are and what may be accounting for some of the things going on. Also, one of the things that we're all excited about is there's a quicker review process now. So what we will be doing as soon as the reports are finished after the 10-day investigation and come to the board, we're doing it so that we can review that and have it all approved by the next board meeting. So it's not going to be looking months to advance. It should be what we're hoping for, is to have the HIP investigations and have them approved that month. One of the other things we discussed was the board and district goal setting, which we had tonight. We just met with Patty. And once we get them back from her, we again in committees will review them. We are working towards our master board certification. This is the Carol Lawson Master Board Certification Program. We have 30 minutes left to achieve that goal. And we have until June to do it. So this is something that will definitely happen. Yeah. But we also discussed the district's communication, specifically with high school parents. We wanted to make sure that all parents are aware of activities going on, you know, whether it be sports, whether it be after school programs, things like that. It really is to just get that communication out so the parents of students know what is happening. And also in the governance, we are also continually looking at board policies. And that's it.
Nicely done. Any questions on the governance committee? All right, we'll stick with you, Ms. Hyde, for human resources.
So for human resources, you know, I say this every single month. The first thing we do is we look at the spreadsheet of open positions. And as of our last meeting, there were 25 open positions, but there are still those interviews going on. A lot of these positions are at the high school, so we're really working hard to get them fulfilled. There were 36 hires since July, but there are more on the agenda tonight, so that just keeps increasing, which is what we want. We'd like to be fully staffed. One of the things that we had talked about with Dr. Freeman is we were just looking at the number of resignations, et cetera, and he compiled this really interesting data sheet because he has interviews with all the people who leave the district. So in that, it was, you know what some of the various reasons were for. A lot seemed to be closer to home kind of activities. Some were salaries, but it was eye-opening to see, why the people, why we have these resignations. We also talked about new positions and job descriptions. One being an alternative school head teacher. It used to be that that program was after school hours, and now it's being brought into the district from 11 to 3, which we just find so exciting because now these kids are going to be part of this school community. It gives them the opportunity to
be involved in the electives. It also gives them the opportunity to take part in extracurricular activities, and that's what we really want. We want it to be so that they have the same opportunities every student here. We have new teacher orientation, the 27th, 28th, and 29th, and the board is coming to a meet and greet. That's going to be Tuesday, the 27th at 11 o'clock. And I think that's all I have to report.
Excellent. Questions on human resources? For my part, I will just acknowledge the hard work that the administration is really putting in terms of trying to get us back to full staff. Clearly not an easy task, but as everybody can see from your agendas, section 7 has, I think, 64 different items in it. So clearly a lot of work being done. I just want to say thank you to everybody that's contributing. Any other comments or questions on human resources? Sounds good, thanks, Sid. Mr. Zupko couldn't be here tonight, so I will just give a brief update on operations. We really talked about two main ideas, both of which are represented in the agenda tonight. The first one is item number 9.20, which is an architectural review of the work that was done for the addition for Lafayette School. I'm sure I don't have to go into excruciating detail for the board members. This is an ongoing topic of discussion. Operations committee, in conjunction with Mr. Gorski and our primary architect, reviewed the recommendations from the specialists with some additional work that they would have to do in order to explore exactly what went wrong in terms of the water infiltration issue that we're having in the basement. And so after some discussion of operations, we're recommending that we undertake that next set of steps. It'll be a professional services contract, and that's what we'll be voting on tonight. The second one is shared services with the borough. So Mr. Gorski and Dr. Freeman, in conjunction with Mr. Merriman, have been working on a new agreement to effectively insource garbage collection that we're currently paying an outside provider to perform. It should create some efficiencies and actually save the district money along the way. So thankful to Mr. Molina on that as well, because I know he contributed, but we think it was a really great thing, both for the borough and for the district, and we are recommending that for approval as well. It was actually a pretty quiet meeting otherwise, so Don, if you have anything to add, or if anybody has any questions, I'm happy to take.
I had a comment.
Of course.
I just want to say, I know one of the agenda items for operations was the school signage. And I'm really happy to report that the new Smalley School sign is up. It looks amazing. The graphics look great, and I'm excited to see the rest of the school signs go up as we progress. So thank you to Dr. Freeman and to Berto for all their hard work in getting that done. It looks great.
Well said. Other comments or questions for operations? Okay, the only other two items we had were SC/ESC, which Ms. High, I believe that report won't be until next month. And Ms. Carlton isn't here, so we don't have a southbound road report for this evening. Before we wrap up, any other questions, comments on this? All right. So if you will indulge me, it appears that I missed item 2.1, and Ms. Heisman has sat patiently and waited for us, but we have to double back and give her the floor so that she can make a presentation. Any objections to going out of sequence? Again, that's my fault, my apologies. All right.
Okay, good evening, everybody. So tonight we're gonna look over the results for the access testing for this past spring, 2024. So I hope that you enjoy the data and the charts that were created for that. So the WIDA Access for MLs is the access test to find out the English language proficiency for the students. It is a yearly test that's given to all students K-12 that are identified as it serves two major purposes. One is to monitor the progress, yearly progress, because there should be some sort of growth in the language proficiency of the students. And also it serves as just one of the many criteria to determine whether a student is eligible to exit the program and would that student be able to function and be successful academically and emotionally and socially in an all English instruction classroom. The English proficiency levels range from 1, entering, all the way to reaching, with where you see the 4 expanding. The cut score for New Jersey is 4.5 in order for a student to be considered for exiting the program. So when they get to that expanding stage, it doesn't mean that they're totally proficient yet. Like that student would still need some sort of language support where whether they exit the program or still stay, they still need the supports because it's not until they reach a 6 that they are truly in the same kind of, level as their monolingual English learners, English speakers. I just want to make sure I didn't miss anything. So the English proficiency is measured in 4 domains: the reading, the writing, listening, and speaking. And then we're going to see a little bit more detail about each of those domains and what they contribute to the overall score for the student. So this is the percentage that we're taking into consideration when we get that overall score. So listening and speaking are really only 30% of that total score. The reading and the writing make up the 70%. So that's why sometimes we might come across students that they can carry on a conversation and they understand everything we're saying in English, but then maybe their reading and writing still needs more support before they can get to that proficiency level. So this is just a sample of the individual student reports. All the reports have been mailed to all the parents as of last week. Thank you to Irene also, who did a wonderful job with all those letters, almost like 600. But we are required to send the reports home, and also they have to be in English, but we also have to send them in the home language for the parents. So it's really 2 reports for our multilingual learner families. So there you see the breakdown of the domains, and then we look at the overall proficiency score to determine that level of proficiency in English. This is the bottom half of that report. So this is just an example of where it says like the proficiency level, and then it gives us the information of what that student can do for that domain at that level. So as you see, a student might be a 4 in proficiency level in writing, but maybe for their listening, they're only a 2. So we can expect different skills to be demonstrated by the student depending on the domain. And this is also useful for the teachers who will have access to all of this, not only through like the coaching and PDs, but also through Linkit. Everything is already on the Linkit website for the teachers. And then that just kind of translates into the can-do descriptors, where at those proficiency levels, we can find out, okay, in listening, what can a teacher expect from a student when it comes to output in language or, reading or writing at that specific level. So it gives, the can-do descriptors are from actually pre-K all the way through 12th grade. And they give an indicator for the teachers onto, what that student is capable of doing. And I always like to talk about this because sometimes we might think like the access test, if a student is at the high school or at the middle school and they get a 4.3, and then we have a first grader that gets a 4.3, it's like, well, is that the same test that they're taking? But it really isn't, because the access test measures the content for each grade level. So the state content standards, they're all embedded into the access test when they have to take it. So an 8th grader or a 10th grader has more content that they have to think about and work through and, think through when they're answering the questions. So the proficiency levels, although they might be the same number or indicator, it means something totally different depending on the grade level of the student. So this is very interesting because, I presented this last Monday. It was last Monday, right? So at that point, on that day, we had 559, current enrollment for our multilingual learners. So since then, we have 47 students that are currently on our list to do the WIDA screener. So those are the new students coming to the district, which will be completed by August 30th. We have 67 students that are newly identified because now we are required by the state to identify our preschoolers. So they don't take a test or anything like that. The only thing we're required to do is that if they have a home language other than English, we have to identify them as language learners so we can provide the support that they need. So we have 67 students already ready to start on September 5th that are pre-K and K only in those 67. So the total possible multilingual learner total by 9/5 could be 673 students. So that's like almost 100 students more than we even thought we had last week. So this is very important to keep in mind because as you see, like the number is just gonna keep growing. So I'm happy and I'm grateful for all the support that everyone has provided because we're putting a lot of supports in place that these students will be able to come in and they will be able to succeed academically and linguistically as well.
Can I just
Yes.
add one comment there?
Yeah.
So when I see this chart and it looks like we're going up 100 students before we get into the next block of potentially another 100 students, I just think it underscores the board members should appreciate while we have invested a lot in modernizing our approach to educating this part of the community. It's not anywhere close to where we need to be. We're gonna have to continue to focus on it and invest in it if we're going to achieve the results we want.
Yeah, thank you for that. And totally agree with everything you just said. Okay, so for this, I just did the comparison of the last 3 years as far as like the total number of students. There you see in the first columns, like how many were tested. Parent refusals, this year we only really had 19 and 7 of those actually exited. So it's less, I think we have 12 total right now. 54 students exited this year compared to last year, which was 22, and then previous to that was 28. And then the alternate test, which is given to special education students that qualify for that, we had 5 students that took the alternate test, ranging from second grade all the way to high school. So this is, I just did like an overall percentage of the different levels of proficiency. So you could just have an idea of like what we're working with as far as like K through 12. But for K3, you see, we would expect to see like a higher percentage at the entering level because those are the young kids, they're just coming in and, that's how they enter. But we do have some that reach that expanding and then the developing stage also, or level. For 4 to 6, it changes a little bit more because now some of these kids have been here for a couple of years. So it's only 8.2% at the entering level, but our biggest percentage is at that expanding stage. So those kids might reach a proficiency score, the following spring, this coming spring when we take the test again. But you can see how it shifts, the higher we go. For the middle school, 10% are entering. And then we have the emerging 33% and then the developing. But we also have a lot of students that are at that expanding stage where they are more proficient in their language. And then for the high school, we do have a lot of newcomers for the high school. So the entering percentage does go up. So it's 26%. 11 of our students are students with interrupted formal education. So that's actually, 11 is not, not a large number, but we still have those students identified because they need extra support. And then we have the emerging, the developing, and then we do have 2% that are at that bridging And those students exited. Some of the ones that are in the expanding level and then the bridging, they definitely exited the program. So I wanted to show this because it's important for us to know that 216 of our students really began last year. They've only been here 1 year. So we had 216 newcomer students. 115 of the total students have been here for 2 years. And then 40% of our students have been here 3 or more years. So that is also a population of students that we want to keep an eye out because some of them have become long-term multilingual learners. So they actually need more support as far as their language acquisition. So the programs in place for this coming school year, we will have the one-way dual language program, 50-50, and we're so excited about that. We actually had our 4th day of training with the dual language teachers today, so everybody's excited. We got to go into their classrooms, you know, showing them how to set up, and they were thrilled with that. So we have that. We had the meeting with the parents, the 6th, August 6th, we had 2 meetings, and we had a good turnout. The parents were also very excited about the opportunity of having the 50-50 dual language program for the students. At CMS and at the high school, we will still continue with the high intensity ESL, which will be 2 periods of ESL for our students. 1 period is aligned to the language arts standards, and that's specifically important at the high school because that's how our students, our MLs, meet their credits for the language arts. So that ESL curriculum has all the language arts standards for every grade 9 through 12 embedded in the curriculum. And then the 2nd period will be aligned to the world language standards. We are continuing our sheltered instruction training for the teachers. Actually, cohort 3 is this week, so tomorrow is their last day of the 3-day training. And then we have another cohort next week of 20 additional teachers that will be trained. So far, I think it's like 80 now, right? About 80 teachers after next week would have been trained with sheltered instruction. And, you know, most of them content area teachers. So now they have like tools and a lot of resources that they can use when they have the students in their classrooms that might be a level 2 or a level 1, but because there's no bilingual teacher there, that's, you know, their instruction will be sheltered. And next steps, we just talked about the implementation of the one-way immersion program, continue the sheltered instruction training. So in October, we will start cohort 5, and that'll be made up of the new teachers that are coming into the district. So every year in October, we're gonna train all those teachers that are just coming in. And then we have, okay, I already talked about that. Continue the dual training throughout the next school year. So we have 9 PD days for our teachers, and we also have 20 days of a specialized instructional coach going into their classrooms to help them with whatever they need. But on top of that, we have the ESL and bilingual instructional coaches that will be able to help K all the way through 12th grade, which I'm really excited about that because like job embedded coaching, instructional coaching, that's PD for the teachers, and that's the most effective and impactful type of workshop for them, like hands-on. We do also want to take a deeper dive into the WIDA access results so the teachers can become familiar with those can-do descriptors, and then a lot of information that will be able to help them so that the students can be successful, even if it's a sheltered instruction classroom. And then we're gonna keep working on the increased parent engagement and the discussions through the Bilingual Parent Advisory Committee. And that's it. So any questions, comments?
Questions from the members?
I have a question. I know we're testing the students when they come in. What happens if a teacher is evaluating a student after they've been tested at a certain range and feels that they maybe need to move up or down? Is there flex in it as well? You know, like if they start out at a certain level, is there any flex during the school year? Are they locked in at that level till they test out, retest?
For the most part, the students will stay in that level, but even last year, we had some situations where I think there were 3 students, but mostly at the lower grade, like kindergarten and first grade, that we retested because the ESL teacher felt like maybe they were nervous when they took it because their output of the language was demonstrating a lot higher than what their actual screeners showed.
And that's actually what I was thinking in my head was, do kids that aren't good test takers, do they get locked in and the teachers don't have the ability to flex them up or down
Mm-hmm.
based on their abilities?
Oh, no, definitely. We have to take that into consideration, especially like even kindergartners. If they don't know the teacher, they get nervous. Sometimes they don't speak. But then as the school year, starts, they get more comfortable. So that was one situation for one kindergartner last year. But yeah, it was a 1. And then when we retested, it was a 4. So that made a big difference too. So he was more comfortable, like 2 months in.
That's great to hear.
Mhm.
Mr. Dawson?
So on behalf of, on the board, we're all really excited about all the work your team and your department is taking. And we know that, a child doesn't become proficient in a second language in a year. It's a long-term approach, and we're all really excited and energized by all the work you're doing. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, next item on the agenda is open to the public for agenda items only. Anybody here to address the board regarding the agenda items? Great. Do you have anything online?
No.
Very good. We are on to item 6.1, be it resolved that the Bound Brook Board of Education, on recommendation of the superintendent, approves the minutes for the following meeting, regular and executive meeting minutes for July 24th, 2024. Just a point of order, Mr. Gorski, because I'm going to have to abstain. Do we have enough members to vote and approve this?
We do, we have 7 members present.
Very good. All right, I will entertain a motion. Thank you, Ms. High. Second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Musson. Any comments or discussion? Hearing none, Mr. Gorski, can we do a roll call, please?
Certainly. Mr. Dawson?
Yes.
Ms. Gazino?
Yes.
Ms. Musa?
Yes.
Mr. Minhas?
Yes.
Ms. Hyde?
Yes.
Mr. Vollmer?
Yes.
And Mr. Board President.
Abstain.
So noted, motion passes.
Thank you. Item 7.1, be it resolved that the superintendent recommends for approval the resolutions as outlined in district personnel resolutions. This is 7.2 through 7.64. May I have a motion?
Motion.
Thank you, Mr. Dawson.
Second.
Ms. High. Any discussion? All right, hearing none, Mr. Gorski, a roll call, please.
Mr. Dawson?
Yes.
Ms. Gazino?
Yes.
Ms. Musa?
Yes.
Mr. Minhas?
Yes.
Ms. Hyde?
Yes.
Mr. Vollmer?
Yes.
And Mr. Janutus?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Item 8.1, be it resolved that the Bound Brook Board of Education approves the resolutions as outlined in district education resolutions. This is 8.2 through 8.28. May I have a motion? Ms. Musson? There you go. Second?
Second.
Ms. Nuzino? Any discussion? Go for it.
I just want to say, I'm looking at all the preparation that went into this, and I am so impressed. Just looking at the PP plan in particular, that's huge. The INRS, the counseling, the handbooks at each school in 2 languages. I was going through this agenda going, this just was accomplished magnificently. I just am very impressed with it.
Well said. Second. Any other comments or questions? All right, hearing none, can we do a roll call, please?
Mr. Dawson?
Yes.
Ms. Casino?
Yes.
Ms. Newsom?
Yes.
Mr. Minhas?
Yes.
Ms. Hyde?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes.
And Mr. Januzzi?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Up to item 9.1, be it resolved that the Bound Board of Education approves the resolutions as outlined in board act. This is 9.2 through 9.26. Can we have a motion? Motion. Thank you, Mr. Minhas. A second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Dawson. Any discussion?
One question, 9.25, the shared agreement with the borough,
Yes.
are the dumpsters remaining the same, it's the same size?
As far as I know, yes. Thanks.
Thank you for the donation.
Yes. Item 9.26, a donation from Mr. O'Malley.
Thanks for supporting the trees in front of the high school. It's really generous.
Yes. Any other comments or questions? Hearing none, Mr. Gorski, a roll call, please.
Mr. Dawson?
Yes.
Ms. Casino?
Yes.
Ms. Newsom?
Yes.
Mr. Minhas?
Yes.
Ms. Hyde?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes.
And Mr. Januzzi?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. We are up to item 10, which is other matters to come before the board, which I have not been informed of any. Item 11, which is new business. Again, nothing introduced in advance. Is there anything that the members would like to raise from the floor this evening? All right, then we are up to item 12.1, which is open to the public for discussion. Anything online?
You do have something online.
Okay.
Mr. Gorski, do you want the person's name and stuff now, or will you note that later?
So I would prefer, Mr. Januzzi, I would prefer to have it now.
Okay, that's fine. Denise Wren, 2 Hayward Street. They put 2 comments in the same, basically. I think they accidentally hit submit. That's just my personal opinion. They would like to discuss the volume of the music played over the speakers during football and other various sports practices. That's part 1. Following up on my previous form that I completed earlier today, my concern is that there is music being played during football practices at the field on Crusader Way. My backyard backs up to the field. The music being played at times is rap with foul language and is blasting at uncomfortable levels. I estimate at 80 decibels. I can hear the music inside my house. Outside, it is uncomfortably loud. This has not always been the case. I have lived at this house, lived at 2 Hayward for over 18 years. The loud music was not an issue for at least the first 10 or more years. Since the sound system was upgraded, the music has become louder and more frequent, not just before games, but at all practices and other events. I have spoken with Bound Brook High School athletic director over the years. At times, he's been receptive. Other times, not so much. I spoke with him last week when the practices started. I believe this was Wednesday, and he was receptive to speaking with the coach about turning the music down. But since practice has begun for the evening, he may not have been able to reach the coach. The music continued to blast for approximately 2 hours. The next evening, the same thing. I called Mr. Steele last night and left a message asking if he had been able to speak with the coach. I have not heard back. However, the music volume was lower. It was approximately 60 decibels. I realized last night that I have a decibel app on my watch that I can measure. Tonight, I did not hear music. I don't know if last night was lower, and today none were just coincidences. I just like the users on the field to be be a good neighbor as I am. I do not blast music from my backyard or use chainsaws or blowers during the times that I feel I may be disturbing those on the field. I'd appreciate the same. As for the noise during the game, I would expect that and have no issue. Though during the announcer, during the game, are even louder than the music if it is possible.
Mr. Lumidio, not to interrupt you, I certainly want to give this resident their due, but I think we get the gist of
Okay.
the comment. My request will be of Dr. Freeman to follow up with the individual who wrote it, to understand the concern and to address any practices from district personnel that may be in conflict with either our policies or with the policies of the township.
I will take care of it.
Thank you, sir. Any other comments online?
There are none.
Thank you, sir. Any comments from the room? All right. We are then moving into executive session. Very nice. Well, I didn't even recognize that myself, so please allow me to recognize Robin Thompson, our new supervisor of special education. Please stand up. We're excited to see what you're going to do for us in the district. We've heard a lot of great things, and again, we're just really excited to get to work. So thank you very much for coming to work with us.
Thank you.
All right, now we're going to move into executive session. Resolved that the Bound Board of Education enter executive session as allowed by NJSA 10:4-11 for the purposes of Mr. Mayor.
1, 4, and 7.
1, 4, and 7. May I have a motion?
Motion.
I'm going to give Mr. Dawson the motion and Mr. Rittenhouse the second. All in favor? Aye.
You guys are good to go.
All right, guys, so we are gonna call to order to move items number 14 and 15, hopefully. So this is item number 14.1, be it resolved that the Bound Board of Education approves the resolutions as outlined in approval of HIB cases under high school. This is just number 14.2. Can we have a motion? Motion. I'll give the motion to Ms. Hyde and the second to Ms. Musso. No discussion, so roll call, sorry. Mr. Dawson?
Yes.
Ms. Casino?
Yes.
Ms. Wilson?
Yes.
Mr. Minhas?
Yes.
Ms. Hyde?
Oh, yes.
Thank you. Mr. Volmer?
Yes.
And Mr. Jacuzzi? Yes. Yes. Thank you. Item 15.1, be it resolved that the Falmouth Board of Education approves the resolutions as outlined in approval of HIB cases under middle and elementary schools. This is just item 15.2. Can I have a motion? Motion. Thank you, Mr. Dawson, a second.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Minhas. Roll call. Mr. Dawson?
Yes.
Ms. Casino?
Yes.
Ms. Moosen?
Yes.
Mr. Minhas?
Yes.
Ms. Hyde?
Yes.
Mr. Volmer? Yes. And Mr. Januzzi?
Yes.
Motion passes. Item 16.1, having we exhausted the agenda, can we have a motion to adjourn?
Motion.
Thank you, Ms. Casino. A second.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Dawson. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We are adjourned.